Praying in tongues is the single most important thing that you can do if you want to experience heavenly things. And when you pray in tongues and get so deep into tongues, you'll realize something very strange. And this is the things that you, like your experiences, your heavenly experiences, feel more natural and more real than actually your earthly experiences. And when you are starting this journey of experiencing heavenly things, you will notice that you don't really know when that change happens. Basically, you will only realize that your experience is more heavenly than earthly when you start interacting with people who have an earthly experience and you find like there is a mismatch in your perspectives, there is a mismatch in how you approach matters, and just generally the way you live your life completely changes, so that your priorities also change and just a lot of things change. And I've had enough experiences to get to a conclusion that when you experience heavenly things, or when you pray in tongues, for like when you soak deep in tongues, you will get to a point where you are just too heavenly that earthly things are just too, I don't know how to like put them in words, but they just completely become very pointless. And one of such experiences I remember is okay. Let me first begin with the what the Bible mentions about these things. And one is that one of Jesus when his disciples went to get food. When Jesus was speaking to the Samaritan woman at the well, so his disciples went to get food. And when they brought him food, he told them, "My food is to do the will of him who sent me." Now, from the earthly perspective, when you read that scripture, you will just say, well, that was Jesus, and he was just saying something that um, is, well, something that Jesus would say. But then if you have like had a lot of experiences with heavenly things, of course, through praying a lot and soaking deep in tongues, you'll realize that that scripture actually means something more deeper than what you might have thought at first. Because what Jesus was referring to was that doing the will of God satisfies you. And that satisfaction is so real that it actually even makes you like completely feel you are satisfied to the point that you don't want to eat anymore. Basically, you have no appetite to eat earthly food anymore, because just by doing the will of God, it satisfies you. So it is something that is a bit difficult to explain from an earthly perspective, but from a heavenly perspective, when you do the will of God, it satisfies every desire that you have, including your desire to have food. And this is where things get a little bit scary and a little bit strange, because from the way we are raised, of course, when we are raised as children, we are used to eating, and we are also used to just these earthly things that we normally do. And you see, the thing with earthly things is that you have to do a lot of them, because usually they satisfy a very small portion of your life. So you have to do many things for you to feel completely satisfied. So basically, if you are feeling hungry, you will need to eat food. If you are feeling thirsty, you need to drink water. If you are feeling cold, you will need to put on warm clothing. If you are feeling tired, you will need to go to bed and sleep and rest. If you are feeling lonely, you'll have to go and talk to people. So you see, just in a single day, there are almost like 10 things you have to do for you to feel satisfied. That is from an earthly perspective. But when you pray in tongues and soak deep in tongues, you'll realize that The one act of just praying in tongues alone and getting very close to Christ and having communion with Christ alone satisfies every desire that you have. And at first, it feels like cheating. That's what I'll say. It feels like you are cheating. It feels like you are doing something that, like it feels like you have some superpowers that you should not be having because they just feel so unnatural. But you see, the reality of the matter is that that is how God designed like prayer to be. Because prayer is communion with God. We have all known this. But you see, what we really don't take seriously is what God really means by communion. Because communion with God is meant to satisfy every desire that you have. Every desire that you have. That's why even Jesus will say things like, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavily laden, I will give you rest." So, what is that rest that he is talking about? And how do you go to Jesus when you are weary and heavily laden? Of course, you have to pray. And that, of course, if you have the gift of praying in tongues, then you will do it more effectively. And then you realize that you are weary because of what? The many things you have to do to get what? To get rest. So earthly things, they have the capacity to like give you rest, but you see, you have to do them at an intensity that will actually make you tired. So that's why you'll see someone like okay, like the usual what people call it the rat race, of course. That endless chase of money, more promotions, more stuff, more things, more what. So what happens is that when you have some money, you feel like if you have more money, it will give you more rest. Basically, if you have more money, you can hire more people to do more things for you so that you don't have to do those things. But what sometimes we forget is that by having more money and hiring more people also comes more management. And management still makes you tired just as much as someone who didn't have money in the first place, who was just working those things himself. So at the end of the day, it is just an illusion where you think like you will actually get rest. But in real sense, it just gives you more work. But when you pray, you will realize that the way heaven works is not the way earth works. Because the way heaven works is that one thing is enough. And it's not just enough for the moment, but enough permanently, like enough forever. So basically, communion with Christ satisfies you, but not once, but just permanently. From then onwards, you'll always be satisfied because of that. And I can remember there was a time I had an experience. I was in church, and of course, we were praying and worshiping. And during that worship, I had this kind of very soft, heavenly, and it just felt like the best word, like just the best form of communication ever. And it's like a voice, it's like an experience, it's like, but it was just something very, very sweet within my heart. So that was just in the middle of worshiping. I remember my hands were lifted up. And this voice said to me, "This is the best thing a man can ever do." Like that is what that voice actually spoke to me. And it really changed my perspective because at that time, I used to have these thoughts of because at that time we used to go to church and that church service would last the whole day. Basically, those services will begin at like 8 a.m. and they will go sometimes up to like 7 p.m. And it was just one service, so the entire service was just worship and prayer and prophecies and whatnot, all those things, speaking in tongues and all that. And there was some days I would feel like I have chopped off one day of my week, and I felt like I am wasting, like I am spending too much time in things of God. Because the way I had been raised was that the things of prayer, you should be doing them moderately. Basically, if you are going to church, probably on Sunday, you should go for like 2 hours or something. And so it was in that kind of setting that this voice spoke to me. And from that day, it completely changed how I like how I perceive things. So what happened was that I realized that actually whenever I would get in trouble or whenever my life will start going um, like when my life will start getting a little out of hand and out of control, and I would start to feel like I am losing control of my own life and how things are going. Initially, I would think about how do I work harder? How do I make more money? How do I talk more to my friends? Maybe because that is what is making me feel lonely, or like you see, those earthly things. I will try to do more of those. But from that day, because I had been told that worshiping was the best thing a man can do. So what I used to do from that time was that anytime my life will start getting out of hand, I will actually stop doing earthly things and focus more on doing the heavenly things, which was to worship and to pray in tongues. And because for me, praying in tongues was easier because singing has like singing is like I am more natural to speak in tongues than to sing. So I incline more to speaking in tongues than to singing. So if I need to worship, I'll mostly just have to play some worship music as I sing along. And so I realized that the more I do this, the more I get satisfied. And so what used to happen was that I would soak into these things, get my life back in order, and then I would start drifting again back into doing earthly things that would again make me weary. And this happened for a while until when eventually I sat down and said, what is the point of going to Christ, have him give me rest, only for me to go back and get myself burdened, only to come back and ask him again to give me rest and go back again. So I said, why can't I just come to Christ and just stay there? And that scared me. It really, really scared me because I now had this question of, how do I live that kind of a life? Like, how do I just live a life where I have no friends to like talk to all, a life where I am not talking to friends, a life where like Christ is everything for me and not those other things that I was normally engaging myself in. It scared me. And so I just kept quiet. I never shared with anyone because I was even afraid that I might be attacked also, even for just having that kind of a thought. But then I began slowly integrating myself into that lifestyle of having Christ to sort every problem. Basically, if I would feel lonely, I would pray. And if I felt hungry, I will do my best to pray. And if I felt sleepy, I'll do my best to pray. So basically, I started pushing myself closer and closer to Christ, as opposed to using these earthly things to like be my to be the things that actually sort out my issues. And then the strangest thing happened. So this has been happening for a while until recently. So recently, you see, like I used to pray in tongues for about an hour and a half per day. That was like the standard I had set. So I will pray in tongues in the morning 1 hour, then in the evening for half an hour. So one day I just woke up and said, I've had enough of that. Let me try to increase these prayers to an astronomical level that I have never done before and see what will happen. And so I pushed myself to do 8 hours of praying in tongues a day, more like how you will do a day job, 8 hours. So I did that for 5 days, and then everything just changed. Because ever since that time, I realized that my perspective of things just completely changed. I can't explain exactly how, but my perspective of things just completely changed. And it changed into more of a heavenly thing rather than the earthly thoughts that I used to have. So even putting them in words, I find it very, very difficult. Even if someone asks me a question, I just find it very difficult to explain to them how I am feeling right now as opposed to what I was feeling before. But all I can say is that I know Christ changed a lot in me and how I think and perceive things. And right now, even when I think of heavenly things, initially I will think of heavenly things as miracles. So, like, basically, I would have heavenly experiences and I would feel like God has visited me today. I have had an experience. But right now, I experience miracles and I just feel like they are just normal things. They are not even like, there is not that amazement that I used to have before when God would do things for me. So basically, I would wake up and make a request to God and say, I like, I want this or this and that, and surprisingly, He will just deliver it almost immediately or just within the day, and I wouldn't even feel like it was something I needed to toil for or it was something I needed to like put any energy into it, and it's just amazing. So today morning, I woke up and I was feeling a little low, and I knew this feeling was there because I was worried about earthly things. There were some issues that I was starting to get worried about, and then I said to myself, "Come on, you pray in tongues. How can you get worried about things?" And even Jesus Himself said we should not worry about these things. So what I did, I just said, okay, let me go and pray in tongues and have Jesus sort out these odd feelings that I'm having. So I went to pray in tongues, and of course, I set myself to pray in tongues for 2 hours. So when I began, of course, I was still having those uh, empty feelings, and then that went on for about 40 minutes, close to an hour. And then around that 1 hour mark, all of a sudden, just those empty feelings disappeared. Like, they just began disappearing. I can't explain how, but I just had those feelings begin disappearing, and I stopped having that worry of the things I was getting worried about. And so I continued to pray in tongues for another 1 hour, and then something even more surprising happened. Now Christ began revealing to me some very sweet things in my heart. And so initially, I had even set myself to pray in tongues for 2 hours to get rid of those uh, like feelings that were making me worried. But now here comes even something more than what I was bargaining for, something that I was asking for. So Christ begins revealing to me something very interesting. I will not share the details of what He was revealing to me, but basically, He was speaking to me the way I would speak to a friend. And then it really amazed me because it satisfied every need that I ever had for talking to a friend. Because when I started having those empty feelings, my first thought was, I need to talk to someone because I've been spending a lot of time alone. So I need to like talk to someone. But when I prayed, Christ Himself came and like began speaking to me. And you see the things that He was speaking to me, they were so sweet that I actually began crying. So I actually began crying to the point that I was barely even like speaking in tongues. And even as I just remember them right now, I already like start to have tears in my eyes because Jesus is just so good. He's just beyond what you can ever imagine. And He really satisfies. He really, really satisfies. And I just have no words. I just completely have no words. And so my day just turned, like, my day had begun with those like feeling low, but then it just turned out to be so sweet to the point that I even had to like postpone some of the things I wanted to do like during the day. And I just had so much peace that I just can't explain. And even to this point, I just still feel the like overflow of what Christ has been, like what Christ did in my life. And that was something He did like in the morning. So this is just an encouragement to you. This world is how do I don't know even how to put it. Like, there are so many illusions in this world which may make you feel like they will give you rest, or they will give you some form of comfort. But there is no comfort in this world. There is no comfort in this world whatsoever. And you will only realize this and believe this when you have an experience with Christ. Because just one experience with Jesus Christ alone will confirm to you a million times that surely these things of this world do not satisfy. And you'll even understand why, like, God will say things like, do not love the world or anything in the world, because it is anything, because there is nothing in this world that actually comes close to what Jesus does for you. But you see, before you get to this point, you have first to take that step of faith whereby you abandon things of the world to go and seek Christ. For me, I had to take a full week of just, I stopped doing everything. I stopped talking to my friends. I stopped doing the work I was doing. I stopped eating. I stopped majority of the things. The only thing I was doing was cleaning my house and, of course, taking a shower. Those were the only things I was doing. The rest of the time, of course, it was praying and sleeping. So those were just the things that I was doing. And after having set myself apart for that week, that is when now Christ does what? Like came and now brought me into this new realm of rest. Like that's just how I will call it, this realm of rest. And it is the best thing that has ever happened to me. It is the best decision I have ever made. And I just can't explain it enough. I just can't emphasize enough how sweet Jesus is. So if you have the gift of praying in tongues, invest more time in that gift and use that gift to get close to Christ. Because I assure you a million and one times that the day you taste of Christ, then it will be all that you have ever needed. It will be all that you have ever desired. It will be all that you have ever sought for, and like everything will just be perfect instantly. Like it can't be explained in words, but it's just what it is. So Jesus Christ, He is our Creator. He made us. He knows every fiber in our being. He knows what satisfies every fiber in our being. These earthly things may only satisfy a very small portion of our lives, but Christ will satisfy the tiniest of your cells. Every cell in your body will feel that it is satisfied because of Jesus. So that's just something I experienced, and I just love it so much. So I am addicted to praying in tongues, and I just want more and more of that feeling. And that means I'll just pray in tongues more and more because that feeling was just too good. So yeah, I'll just keep praying and yeah, just keep enjoying because it's good. It's the best thing ever. Yeah, so that's it. God bless you.